Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Hang Up. I'm Matt Dillahunty. Thanks for joining me this weekend. This middle of the week. It feels like a weekend, and I'll tell you why. Arden's getting ready to leave to go visit family and friends and stuff. So I'm going to be spending an entire week here in the house with all of these animals all on my own. So I'm going to need y'all. Tonight's going to be a slightly shorter show. We've got a 2-hour hard ending, so I'm not going to go on and on. Let me hit my main point real quick. We'll bring my guest in, and we will start taking calls. We'll take calls for about 90 minutes, and at 7:30, we'll start reading super chats. Any super chat over $10, we'll read today and go through them all. In the meantime, I didn't really have anything that I was hung up on until about 2 hours ago. I was, JMike's joining me today, and I was just sitting here, and I'm looking at what's going on in the world. And I was like, we could just take calls like normal and chillax. It's been a little while since JMike and I have had a chance to do a show together. But then Trump went and did an interview with the National Association of Black Journalists. And it did not go well for Trump. Now, this is one of those things, like if you haven't seen it, you can go watch. There's a whole bunch of people who've done a bunch of coverage on it. I posted a link on YouTube. Genuinely, if we weren't living in Bizarro world, this is the sort of interview that would absolutely end any hope of someone becoming president. It was more than I could have expected. And it was, well, I'm not going to use the W word that everybody's been using because I actually don't think it was all that unusual. I think it was absolutely his character on display because, first of all, Trump doesn't deal well with women, doesn't deal well with powerful women, and doesn't deal well with powerful women of color. And so when you get him on stage with 3 black women addressing him and asking him questions on behalf of the North American Black Journalists Association, it very much depends what they say as to how quickly his answers can devolve into something awful. And in this case, it was virtually immediately. They started off with pointed questions, or at least at some point they got into very pointed questions about, hey, you've said this, you've done this, you've said this, you've done this, you've said this, you've done this. What is it that why should black voters trust you going forward? And basically his response was that he's never been asked such a question in such a rude way, and you're a very nasty, woman asking me questions. And then he diverted to, hey, when did Kamala become black? Because I knew her for a long time and she was never said she was black. And then all of a sudden she became black. And it was a lot. And what struck me right off the bat is that, will it make any difference? Is there a section of his base that are actually proud of him saying this and acting this way in the face of questions about things he's actually said and done? And also, when he tried to lie while sitting on that stage, they called him out on it. He tried to lie about abortion, and they called him out on it. In a sensible world, this would end someone's candidacy. But we don't live in a sensible world at the moment. And so I don't know that it's going to, have any serious impact. I'm wondering how much of his base is actually proud of this, because despite what some people think, and we're going to be taking calls here in just a couple minutes, but when I was a Christian, I was a fundamentalist evangelical. I was raised primarily Southern Baptist. I occasionally, engaged in, went to Pentecostal churches for concerts and things like that, but primarily Southern Baptist. And so I have a very conservative background, not quite Christian dominionism, but definitely something along those lines. I would say it was more like I was a Christian dominionist or a Christian nationalist only in the sense that if that was God's plan, then that's what we would work for. It was just a, Bible-based church. There's absolutely no chance that when I was a Christian, I could look at Trump and say, wow, there you go. There's a fine representative of Christianity. I can't wait to make him president again. That just could never have happened, even though I would have once upon a time agreed with him on issues like abortion and things like that, things that I've dramatically changed my mind about. it's still, I couldn't have made any excuses. And I've had conversations. I had a conversation with my mom back in 2016, where I'm like, look at the things that he said. If I said or did any of these things, you would be ashamed that I am your son out doing this. And yet this is the man that you're going to vote for president, or that other people are going to vote for president, and that you think is God's pick. And what you hear in some of the apologetics is, well, nobody's perfect, and so God's going to use the people that he needs to use, and blah, blah, blah. And look, it worked. He changed the Supreme Court and they got rid of Roe. And wasn't that the goal? And for some on the right, that was absolutely the goal. So it doesn't matter when he's being racist, when he's being misogynistic, or when he's being both. And so I wonder, maybe there are people out there who are Trump supporting theists who can maybe give us some thoughts on how and why, because I know plenty of theists, including some people who are, fundamentalist type Christians, who are just absolutely not going to be supporting him. But yet there's still a lot of support. Tonight's guest joining me tonight, JMike. We're going to be taking calls on a variety of subjects, but we're still very eager to get theistic callers. We've had some decent ones lately. I'm going to be doing some extra videos about that. As I mentioned, we're going to run up till 7:30 or so, and then take some super chats. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. I know what I'm going to be watching after the show now, so I will be. It perked my ears.
It's a good clip,
it's interesting because
but it's scary.
Yeah, and it's funny because like the last point you made, I talked to like a presuppositionalist the other day on TikTok, and we got into kind of a politics thing, and they said that they wouldn't vote for Trump, which I was like totally thrown off from, and he is like very, very devout, very dedicated to the presuppositionalism, and it was like threw me off. So, I think that's something that's new to me. I think I'm maybe it's unfair, but I've been kind of expecting people to blindly accept someone that is invested in their interests, but luckily there are people that disagree, so that's good.
And we're starting to see more stuff where people are starting to realize that maybe he's not as invested in all of their interests the way they thought. Maybe they're voting against their own interests on some things. By the way, quick announcements. I have the list of upcoming shows here on the line after tonight. Tomorrow is going to be August 1st, and the Transatlantic Call-In show is going to be Josie and Nominal Naomi. Then the Sunday show at 2 p.m. Central is going to be me and Aron Ra this Sunday. The Sunday show after dark at 6 p.m. is going to. Oh wait, no, I don't see the.
The After Dark's on the far side. Yeah, you got it.
That's so weird. John Gleason's going to be on with Seth Andrews. Then Skeptalk next Monday is going to be Aron Ra and John Gleason. Chewed Gum's going to be Alyssa and Erika Given. And then next week, we're missing it. What
are we missing?
It says here that Jim is on next week, and I thought it was Andrew.
Oh yes, I misspoke when we talked earlier. It's Jim Barrows next week.
Okay, so cool. Next week will be Jim Barrows. Great to have Jim back on here. And the week after that, we've already confirmed and found the schedule open to get Andrew Seidel back on. So we're booking everything. By the way, two quick things. One, I have to thank Mike, because Mike is the most important reason that I was able to do a debate in Tampa on Good Friday with Than Christopoulos, who I got along with famously, and we're looking to potentially do more stuff together. So thanks a lot for being a voice for those guys and for me to kind of make that happen. But also,
yeah, of course.
How's the pinball going?
Oh, it's been terrible lately. There was an event in Atlanta, Southern Fried Gaming Expo, that I went to. It was 3 days long, so that was awesome. I didn't enter any of the tournaments because of my play prior was a little bit mixed, and the number one guy, I think, I always get it wrong, IPFL or IFPL, basically like the professional league for pinball. I think it's Dalton. I can't remember his last name. He's one of the best in the world ranked, and he played a tournament at a spot I go to with 100 people the day before. I found out he was in. I was like, I won't enter it. I'll hear about it. He wins that one, then does a tournament for that expo for the subsequent 3 days, wins everyone in that one. So it's like, you know what? I'm happy I just went around the expo and played the machines and didn't get involved in any of that. So some people are just freaks of nature at that, where I'm still kind of playing the chance game, still trying to figure out how to eliminate the randomness.
So next time you get down to Austin, by the way, come over, hang out, but we'll go to pinballs. Because I love playing. I suck. I mean, probably my two best machines, which I couldn't play now to save my life. Adam's Family is probably one of my better ones, but also
it's an expensive pin. That's like a $10,000 pin. That's crazy expensive. Yeah.
And my other favorites, my all-time favorite is Theater of Magic. Following that is Adam's Family, probably Medieval Madness,
classic.
Twilight Zone's probably number 4, but I suck at all of them. What's your best machine?
Guardians of the Galaxy, and I've never seen any of the movies, so it's weird. I don't know anything about the movies, but that was the first pin my buddy was like, dude, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna learn how to play, and we're gonna stick on this machine. So for me, it was that. It's pretty easy to understand. You hit a mode shot, opens up a different character. You hit all your lanes, go back into the mode shot. It's really easy to understand. So I think it's really good for a beginner. But Theater of Magic's probably my favorite of all time. I've only played it once at a place near me called Portal, but I was so sold with the mirror in the back and the box. It was so gimmicky for me. So I was completely sold on that. Yeah.
It's my all-time favorite. I own there's the Pinball Arcade digital recreations that are perfect.
Yeah.
Like they actually scan the games and use those images as all the graphics. They no longer have the rights to everything they used to, and so I haven't actually played the app in ages. But I will say, Theater Magic is the only pinball machine I've ever actually considered buying and putting in my house. And I have a friend, I DJ, who actually owns a Theater of Magic machine as well. So I'm crazy jealous. We have so many of the same interests, and to find out it's one of your favorites is cool as well.
Hopefully I'll get the money to buy a pinball machine one day, but arcade cabinet's much cheaper, so that's kind of what I've stuck with.
And actually, I'm leaning towards. I saw it looks like a physical machine, but it's basically a big screen TV laid down in there, and so you get virtual versions of them. I really want to try one of those out to see if it even comes close to the feel, because being able to have a virtual version of 500 pinball machines is probably more valuable to me than having one Theater of Magic, especially because they're going to break down, and it's going to be harder and harder to find people who are knowledgeable to fix them and parts for them, as they're older machines.
And you have people have built those ROMs and those playfields from scratch, and they're online, so you can put it on a machine like that. It's the way to go for sure.
Cool. Well, we've got theists all ready here, ready to take calls. If you're ready to get started, I'm ready to jump in, and we're excited to have some theists here.
Hello.
So, Jackie, pronouns are him, calling from. Are you calling from Mississippi?
Yeah.
Oh, welcome. You're on with Mike and Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm all right. It says here that you say that asking for evidence of the existence of God misses the point of religious belief. And I'm definitely would like you to explain that, because I don't know how people could believe anything or justify believing anything without, having evidence for it. So what is the point of religious belief? And are you saying you don't need evidence?
Let me try and, so I would say the best way I would articulate my point is that the religious belief as a phenomena, as a mode of being, is not rooted in evidence in a scientific sense. So, out of curiosity, do you know who the psychiatrist and philosopher Corey Jaspers was?
That name does not ring a bell. Mike?
Well, essentially,
No.
he was a Christian existentialist philosopher and psychiatrist. And he pointed out one of the ideas of worldviews is that there's certain limits to empirical reality. It's sort of a Kantian notion that pure reason has a limit of your subject and your subjective experience and consciousness is going to be an intermediary between you and objective reality. And so for Jaspers, any worldview is necessarily going to rely on axioms that cannot be empirically tested or grounded. The most important function of the worldview is to create a mode of being, a metaphysical substrate, like Jordan Peterson talks about, that you're aiming towards in life. And I would argue that the metaphysical substrate religion is
You're
to
losing me
provide.
rapidly with this language.
Yeah, you're basically losing both of us. So here's the thing. You can say that I'm wrong or you disagree, but I'm still trying to get to this core question. When you say to ask for evidence for the existence of God misses the point of religious belief, all I ask is, first, what is the point of religious belief?
To provide a metaphysical substrate to explain that which is beyond the objective and subjective dichotomy.
So
I
you
don't know
think
what
the
that means.
purpose you think the purpose of religious belief is to provide a metaphysical substrate?
Yes, that is beyond
Does
that
it
which the
matter?
objective.
Does it matter whether or not the proposed metaphysical substrate of a given religion is true? Is it enough that it just proposes one, or does it matter whether it's true?
Define true.
True as in actually correct, as in the facts of this are consistent with the facts of reality.
Define
Propositions
reality.
propositions
Okay,
are
well,
bivalent. They can be
Jackie?
true or false. So
Jackie,
one or the
I
other.
swear I'm not going to sit here and play this ridiculous game where we try to redefine truth and redefine reality or whatever else. Do you experience a reality as far as you can tell, Jackie?
For all intents and purposes, I do experience reality.
Cool. Do you think you and I share the reality you experience, or am I more likely a construct that's not real?
I would venture Occam's razor says we share the same reality.
Yeah. So as long as we share a reality, if I were to say X is true, I'm saying that the claim X is consistent with the actual state of affairs within reality. So
Yeah.
does it matter?
Exactly.
Does it matter if the proposed substrate of a given religion is true or not?
Well, yes, but the thing is, that
There's not a
type of
but.
truth is not.
There's not a but.
Well,
There's not a but.
yes,
I'm
there is
asking
a but.
specific. No, there's not a but.
does
I'm still
matter.
talking. Jackie, stop interrupting. I'm asking specific questions so that we can better understand it. You've already bored Mike to tears and we haven't even gotten started. So, if it matters whether or not the proposed substrate is true, how do you tell whether or not the proposed substrate is true? That's the question.
Well, so on the John Piaget's hierarchy of values, does the metaphysical substrate allow your modality of being to operate authentically in the world?
You're just saying words. That's a question. He's asking you to answer. Like, look,
Yeah.
a question isn't propositional, right? We're asking for something that takes it's bivalent. It can be true or it can be false. A question, right? It's just the answer. I don't know why you're doing you just go into this metaphysical substrate and you just start saying a bunch of word salad. I don't get it.
What I'm saying is, God operates at the pinnacle of the Piagetian hierarchy of development, and therefore,
Jackie, that is irrelevant. Your assertions about God are irrelevant to my question. My question is, how do you determine if the proposed substrate from a religious model is in fact true?
If it allows you to live an authentic existence and serves as the top of your Piagetian hierarchy of values. If it serves as a basis for your modality of being.
That is not a model of truth. You're basically saying, if you find that it's useful, that's good enough.
I mean, it's sort of like Carl Jung and Mircea Eliade talked about in their analysis
Jackie,
of religion.
I swear, if you rattle off one more fucking irrelevant name of a philosopher in order to try to make you sound like you know what you're talking about and are smarter about it, I will hang up on you. All I care about is sound epistemology and whether and how we can tell. How can JMike and I tell if a particular proposed substrate is in fact true? And all you've said so far is not how do you tell, but if in fact it provides you with a useful way to actualize your real self, then it's true. And I reject that assertion. I need an epistemology that demonstrates that a particular claim is in fact consistent with reality and not merely just useful.
But there's a level of value judgment that operates in every axiom. No axiom can be 100% certain.
I'm not talking about axioms. I'm not talking about axioms, Jackie. I'm not interested in axioms. I'm interested in demonstrations of truth. If you're just going to presuppose it as an axiom, we can move on because I don't care.
But I'm saying the usefulness of an axiom is going to determine whether or not you should adopt it.
I didn't say anything about axioms. Why are you bringing up axioms? You have proposed that religions offer a metaphysical substrate. And I'm saying, how can we determine that a proposed substrate is actually correct? You don't get to say, you don't get to call it an axiom and then talk about whether or not it's useful. I'm talking about epistemology to get to accuracy.
If you want the honest answer to that, the honest answer I would provide to that, the most clear way is you can't know for certain. But
I didn't know, Jackie, did I say, how do you know for certain?
We didn't use that exact language.
Did I say, how do you know for certain?
No, you didn't say certain.
No, I didn't. Have you listened to me speak before about certainty?
I've watched some of your stuff, but I'm not that familiar with
What is my position? What is my position? What is my position on certainty?
That you can't be absolutely certain about anything.
Sure. So why would you pretend that I even remotely suggested whether or not you can know something for certain when I didn't mention knowledge or certainty? What I asked for was an epistemic justification. Why do you, if you dodge one more time, we're done, Jackie. If you're just going to say you can't have a reasonable way to tell if a proposed substrate is real, then just say that.
Okay, that is what I'll cop to. But what I'm saying is, even if it's not true,
there's no but. There's no but. If you're saying you have no way of determining if a particular religious substrate is in fact actually correct, then we're done. Because I don't have any interest in your proposals that you cannot defend as real.
I mean, okay. I'm saying for my intents and purposes.
Bye.
I mean, he's just telling us that he has no reason to offer, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
when you call in, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say, like, the point, like, of, like, I could be a naturalist or like a metaphysical naturalist and just be like, I have provided some metaphysical substrate, which I'm like skeptical on what that even means. But like, there's a further question on whether or not that's true, right? Like the fact that like I account or provide for one, or like give an account for like numbers, and that's my part of my metaphysical substrate, like doesn't mean that like my account is true. Like there's still this further question. It's like all of the work left ahead of you to figure out whether or not it's consistent with the hypothesis or what you would expect on the hypothesis, right? But whatever.
This is the same.
That lost me quick.
The metaphysical substrate is essentially grounding. What is it that makes reality real? What is it that makes logic reliable? What is it that serves as a foundation for morality? What is it that serves as a foundation for the model? And so when we're in a world where, you know, it seems like, hey, we don't have a grounding for logic. Cool. I got one. It's God. Yeah. The whole point is, I know you can do that. I know you can say all day long, God serves as a grounding for logic or morality or whatever. God, your God belief or your religious model serves at that. So the thing that Jackie didn't get is, he's like, oh, when you ask for evidence for the existence of God, you're misunderstanding what it's all about. Okay. Are you saying that we should believe without evidence? Oh, yeah. Because the only thing that matters is there a model that seems and appears to provide a grounding that lets you actualize who you actually are? Jackie, like so many other people who are fans of Jordan Peterson, have attempting to fancy themselves smart, have made themselves stupid. Because it's a bunch of distraction, because the reality is that religions don't have a sound epistemology. They, generally speaking, don't have a way to demonstrate that their claims are true, because they go beyond what we can actually investigate. And that's why at the beginning of the call, Jackie wanted to throw out, well, you can't demonstrate it scientifically. Okay. What other way is there to demonstrate? Is there any way to demonstrate the thing? No. It's just if you find it useful and it lets you actualize your identity. Cool.
You might find the drunk guy at the bar with his model and proposal of metaphysics substrates useful, right? But the fact that you wouldn't care about additional evidence just would have you believing every drunk guy at every bar if you wanted to be consistent, yeah, it's just strange to me.
Yeah. Well, we got more theist callers. Here, I've had about 15 conversations with this one. So, Mike, we got Matthew calling from Ohio, who's here to give a reason for the hope that's within him. Matthew, you're on with Mike.
Hey, Matt. Hey, JMike. JMike, do you recognize my voice?
I don't, not this quickly, no.
Personer from Stereo.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. Okay, so Matt, you said you've had 15 conversations. I've had like 30,000 with Personer, but yeah.
Have any of them remotely been productive? Because I have not yet been able to get a really good productive conversation. So let's try this today, Matthew.
Well,
you're saying you're calling to give the reason for the hope that's within you. When you say the reason, is it an esoteric private reason, or is this a reasonable justification for your belief that we should share?
I would say it's more esoteric private.
Okay.
But
then
maybe
I don't know about Mike, but I have zero interest and zero use for the fact that you think you have a reason for your belief that we can't, that would not be compelling to other people.
Yeah. Like I say this anytime I do any show, if like someone has some personal experience there and I can't investigate that, or if it's something tangent to that, like it's just not interesting to me, because it just sounds like I don't know what I can do to put myself in your shoes there. But the conversations I like to have is something where we can both at least work together in some way, or at least provide reasons that might go, hey, you know what, I changed that position. Right.
And last thing, Matthew, and then I'm going to let you continue. You call into almost all these shows, almost all the time, day after day. And when we title a show, like the title of this show is Defend the Hope Within You, you do realize that that's not a call where like every time you call in and you're trying to address the subject of the show, in a literal sense, I don't know that you're able to escape that literal sense. And so when we say, what's the reason for the hope that's within you? If God, let's say I told you that I believe in God, and you said, what's my reason? And I said, God spoke to me and provided evidence to me directly that convinced me that he was real and communicating with me. Would you find that reasonable?
Well, I would talk to you more. I want to know more about this experience.
But isn't the experience first person to me, which makes it hearsay to you? So when I say God communicated with me just the other day, and he said, hey, I've been incredibly disappointed with what you've been doing, coming out and making these videos against me. You need to repent. I love you. I want to make your life better. And because of that, I made some changes in my life, and my life got a little better. Is any of that sufficient for you to believe in that God based on my word and my experience?
You're telling me to come from an atheist point of view, I'm assuming.
Just to believe what he said.
You don't know which God I believe in. And so I'm saying, if I told you a story like that, would you, I'm saying, if I told you a story like that, would that be sufficient for you to believe in the God that I'm having? Okay. What question could you possibly ask that would give you the answer from me that would make you believe in the God that I'm advocating for?
Well, I would think it would take some time for us to get there. But the first question I would ask is, what God are you referring to?
His name's Stephen.
Okay, and I would say, where do you get these ideas of Stephen from?
They appear in my head. He speaks to me internally, and he told me his name is Stephen.
Okay. And he told you to repent?
Yes.
To turn away from your sins?
Yes.
I mean, at that point, if he's telling you to turn away from your sins, I would say carry on.
I
You
didn't ask you
believe him?
what whether you would say any carry on. What I asked was, what question would you ask to get the evidence you need to determine whether or not you should believe in the same God that I do?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't be concerned with your Stephen God. I would just be glad that you're turning away, I guess.
Cool.
But we're focused on the
But-
claim of that God.
But my Stephen God,
I'm not sure how this is me giving the reason of the hope that's in me, though.
but my Stephen God, when he says to repent from my sin, the sin that he's talking about is the sin of being a former worshiper of Jesus. So he says that's a sin, and I'm to repent from that. Are you still okay with me carrying on?
No, that's why I said we'll have a deeper conversation. Now, if you add that to it, I'd probably be a little bit concerned as being a follower of Jesus myself.
Yeah, but do you? How would you solve that?
I think we would just have further conversation. It would have to be an actual conversation. We could just
You're
make up
fucking
Stephen and all
calling
this
into my
stuff.
show for the 90,000th fucking time, Matthew. We can have the further conversation right now. I tried to flip this
Yeah, let's do
around to make it, shut up. I tried to flip this around to make it at least accessible. Because you have failed in every conversation you have had with every host on every show, to the point that nobody even believes you're serious anymore. And people in chat are asking you what it's like to wake up in a new world every fucking day. So are you able, stop fucking talking. Are you able to present evidence for your God, or are you able to present a sound epistemology by which you can determine which God is real? Yes or no?
I'm confident that I can.
Then fucking do it. This is, I swear, Matthew, I have your phone number. You've called a million times. I'm going to ask you now to present evidence for your God. Go.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say the Bible is evidence for God, for my God. And I would say the things, as you said, was reasonable.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
I'm almost done.
No, you're fucking done.
Okay.
When one of the hosts on the show interrupts to ask questions, that's when you're done, and you stop and you wait until it's your turn again. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask something clarificatory. Like, so you say the Bible, like as it is, do you have like a critical account on that? Because it's like, it's not really convincing to me if someone's just like, I believe Jesus said all of the stuff in the Bible without having some critical account. Like scholars use dissimilarity or independent attestation, or maybe you don't care about those or you do. But if you don't have a self-imposed critical account, then you have a non-critical account, right? And so when you say the Bible, is it just that you accept the claims that are said, or do you have some critical account that goes with that?
Well, yeah, no. So there's a mixture of. I spoke with Matt, I think a couple of days ago, and he said after he was conversing with me, he said that it was reasonable. What I'm saying about Proverbs and Jesus Christ was reasonable. So that's kind of where my mindset goes when it comes to the Bible.
I didn't ask about that.
Pardon?
How do you? I didn't ask about that. Just let me give you an example. How do you determine what Jesus said was more likely said by Jesus rather than early Christians putting words on the lips of Jesus? How do you determine that?
Yeah, I guess when I look at the Proverbs and I look at what Jesus actually said, or what was claimed that Jesus said, I see that there's a matchup from the ancient writers and and what Jesus is saying, or what is being said there. And to me, if somebody was to kind of make that up, pardon?
Well, that's like going to directly affect you might not care about this, but there's something called dissimilarity, and that if someone's stressing like theological points about what Jesus said, it's likely that they're making it's more likely that they're stressing that for theological purposes, right? So like just merely saying that isn't really going to be sufficient for me. You're going to have to like point, like, you have to give me something on the. That's fine, but look, I mean, the point is that like when we take say a saying that Jesus says in Luke about the kingdom of God, which becomes more spiritual than literal, right? we have two kind of different juxtaposed views on the kingdom of God, and we want to assess, well, which one kind of developed over time, which one is probably what Jesus likely said, and that's going to involve some self-imposed criterion, right? But it sounds like you're just saying, well, I look at the Old Testament, and that's like what the people who are writing the New Testament would likely think, but they have the text already, right? That's not going to be very compelling to say that it's more likely. They can look back at the text and, right? I can write a second movie to any first movie that I write.
Would you agree?
Well, after
would you agree that someone who says, I look at the Bible and I see truth there, isn't providing a method by which to determine truth, but is just stating what their opinion is?
Yeah, I think it would need further conversation. I think the person will need to expect.
Well, if you say further conversation one more time, you will have no further conversation. Clear?
Understood.
Okay. Since someone's saying they find the Bible compelling is not evidence that the Bible should be considered compelling, this gets to what Mike is asking about what your reasons are. It's not enough for you to say you look at Proverbs and see a reflection of the character that's represented elsewhere, because there's plenty of different reasons. There are plenty of different justifications for why you might see that, why it may exist, why it may not exist. So what methodology can you provide to show why the rest of us should look at the Bible and see truth?
Right. So I applied these teachings that Jesus teaches that I find in Proverbs. I apply to my life, and I see the results of them. I see patience.
Assuming, skipping over what I even asked.
Yeah. So what we asked was for how you tell. So let me ask you this, Matthew, because we went down this exact same road. If someone took the teachings from book B and put them into practice in their life, how does that in any way inform the person as to whether or not the various claims in book B are true?
Well, yeah, it would depend on the practice they put in life. So, for example, let's say I have a book on fitness, and it says if I do these exercises and my muscles will grow, and I do these exercises and my muscles grow, then I would say, okay, well, that shows that book B is true.
Okay. But no, it doesn't show that book B is true. What if book B says the earth is flat, eat your vegetables, don't put mustard on hot dogs, and Matt is the smartest person in the universe? If it turns out that hot dogs are better without mustard, and that eating your vegetables are good and true, does that mean that the other statements, does that mean the earth is flat and that Matt is the smartest person in the universe? No. So each individual claim in the book has to be justified on its own, right?
Right. Book B is true. When I say book B is true, I mean book B is true.
There's no but. Each claim in the book needs to be justified on its own. So when you say you take the teachings of the book and put them in effect in your life, if the book says, be kind to others, and you do that, and your life improves, does that mean that what the book says about there being a God is true?
No.
Then where's your evidence that there is a God? Because no matter how many times you say you find the Proverbs and as a reflection of Jesus, and no matter how many times you say I put what I see as the instructions in the book to practice in my life, none of those are evidence to confirm that a God exists. So we're back to where we were at the start of this call. Again, where's the evidence for God?
Well, what I came to talk about was the hope that is in me. Why do I have this hope?
Okay.
Why do I have?
We're done, Matthew. We're done, Matthew, and I think we're going to make it permanent, because every time you get cornered, you pull this bullshit of what I came to talk about today was the hope that I have within me. Okay, cool. But you agreed that you could provide evidence for God just a couple minutes ago, didn't you? Okay, Matthew hung up.
Yeah. It's we kept doing this thing where you just say, well, I look at that and Jesus says that, assumes the truth of that, right? I mean, it's not like you don't disagree that people made up things that Jesus said. You probably don't agree with the Gospel of Thomas, for example. There's like direct phrases of what Jesus said that Christians today don't think he ever said that, right? So it's not like totally out of the woods to think that early Christians were making up things that Jesus said. And then the question is, when you think the Bible, is something that's going to get you there, well, do you have for each one of these claims some methodology or some criterion such that you can at least like rule in or rule out something self-imposed? But like upon analysis, every time you ask this, there's not really anything guiding this process. It's just kind of acceptance. It's frustrating because maybe you could be a rational Christian, but you're not even trying.
Yeah. I don't know. So Matthew's called about 1 million times and it never goes well. And he has difficulty understanding the difference between, hey, I feel this or I'm convinced of this, and hey, I am rationally justified in being convinced of this. And can't provide any mechanism by which he can justify any rational, there are people who are like, oh, you don't have a grounding for logic. Okay, fine. But we agree on identity, non-contradiction, excluded middle. So how or why those things are true are kind of irrelevant to the fact that they are reliable, in the same way that if I don't know how an internal combustion engine works, that doesn't change the fact that it works or is broken or doesn't work or any of that. Those are independent.
And
so
I don't even know what it would mean to prove a law of logic anyway. It just seems strange because they're just true in logics. They're just defined as true in logics. I've never really understood that whole, like, it just seems like a category error. Like I need to paint my dream or something like that. It just doesn't compute to me. My brain does not compute that phrase.
Yep. Well, we have more callers, including Patrick in Idaho, who evidently showed up in my Twitch stream and thought that we debated in Twitch when that's not actually what happened. But Patrick, you're on with Mike and Matt.
Hey, Matt, I hope we can start with a good start. A fresh start for you. Is that okay?
I couldn't understand what you said.
Didn't hear you.
Oh, I said let's have a fresh start here today.
Fresh start. Very difficult to understand, but okay, sure. You're on with Mike and Matt. Fresh start.
Yeah. So I didn't want to answer you why Christians would support Trump instead of Biden.
Can you move your mouth just a little away from the microphone? It just feels like it's.
My visual was his head on the pillow in his bed. Like that's what I was seeing in my head.
Yeah, it's. I'm just saying it's a little muffled, so it's kind of
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Better.
Kind of. It's still muffled, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so I didn't want to talk about why Christians should support Trump instead of Biden.
Are you a United States citizen?
Yes.
Really? Because your IP address suggests that you're not in the United States.
Okay, well, there's such a thing as a VPN.
Okay. There's such thing as a voice modifier as well? You use one of those?
No.
I couldn't even understand whether that was a no or a yes, but.
I said no.
Okay, cool. Sure. Why should Christians support Trump?
Well, because Trump is actually a Christian and Biden is not.
Biden's a Catholic. Are you saying Catholics aren't Christians?
Yeah, they're obviously not. They're papist pagans.
Okay. And so Trump is a Christian. Biden is not, is your baseline thing. And so that's why Christians should support Trump, right?
Yeah.
What makes you think that, like, is everybody who says they're a Christian?
Well, I don't know Trump's heart, but he's a professed Christian.
Okay. I don't know why you wouldn't answer the question I asked, but is everybody who's a professed Christian an actual Christian?
Yeah.
So, okay. You think everybody who professes Christianity is an actual Christian?
Yeah, no.
Are you pretty knowledgeable about the Bible at all?
Yes, I've read all of it. Have you read the book of Ezra? Have you read the book of Ezra?
I've read all of it.
So what is the book of Ezra about?
So have you read Matthew 25?
I've read all of Matthew.
Okay. So how is it that you say everybody who professes Christianity is a true Christian, even though earlier you tried to point out that you couldn't know Trump's heart? So everybody that professes Christianity is a true Christian, but the Bible suggests that that's not the case.
Yeah, we don't know their heart, so we'll just take them at their word.
Okay, but that's a different thing. See, I asked whether or not everybody who professes Christianity is a true Christian, and you said yes, but now you're saying you're just going to take them at their word, which means they might not be, but you're just going to believe them.
Right.
Okay, so you weren't being accurate when you just said that they're a true Christian. You're just saying if they profess it, I'm going to take them at their word. That's not whether or not they're a true Christian, because the measure of a true Christian is not whether or not Patrick takes them at their word, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I don't know why you raised that.
Well, I'm not in support of pagan over a Christian.
You don't know what Trump is. You just know what Trump claims. What percentage of what Trump claims is true?
Probably not 90%.
90% of what Trump says is true. Okay, cool.
Are you serious?
So in the 10%, what if his claim about being a Christian was in the 10%?
Sorry?
What if Trump's claim that he's a Christian is in the 10% of things that he says that aren't true, according to your model?
Yeah, then he'll have to answer to God about that.
Okay, but you're saying Christians should vote for Trump because he's a Christian. But if Christians can't know whether or not he's actually a Christian or not, then maybe they shouldn't vote for him.
Well, she has a good track record of supporting Christian policies during his presidency.
Yeah, but does he have a good track record of doing things that are consistent with being a Christian?
It doesn't matter. He's building the kingdom.
So it doesn't matter whether or not he's a Christian or whether or not he's a good Christian. It's just he is doing things that Christians should like.
Yeah.
Cool. Why do Christians like giving tax breaks to the rich and keeping the poor poor?
And the Bible doesn't go much into economics, actually. So
I didn't, you know, Patrick, why can't you just answer the question you're asked? But all right. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we move on? Because nobody believes you're for real.
Yeah, I'm not interested in this guy, to be honest.
Okay.
Well, Mikey looks like a homeless person. So
what's that? Mike looks like a homeless person.
Is
there something?
I say that about myself. Like, you think that hurts my feelings?
Here's the thing, Patrick. What does Christianity tell you should think and say about homeless people?
Don't I look like
you
Jesus
bless
to you
them.
too?
You should what?
We should bless the poor.
Yeah, but
make fun of
when
them
you look at
online.
JMike and you say you look like a homeless person, what is it you're actually
Inside
saying?
my
Isn't
house.
that aren't you suggesting?
I'm saying because, yeah, JMike is a middle class guy who's LARPing as a homeless guy, and it's weird.
How do you know what my income is?
Because you're a YouTuber. I don't think you're fucking working
I don't
class.
make money on. I don't make money on YouTube. I make $0 on YouTube. I've never made
All right,
money
well,
on
you sit on your ass all day and make videos, so.
Okay, this is getting weird, but
yeah, this is a
very
fake
Jesus
caller
of you.
who came in to troll me in my Twitch stream, who's using a VPN, maybe using a voice changer. Don't know. Doesn't matter. Goodbye, Patrick. Have a good day. It's incredibly disappointing.
Really got that JMike guy on the line. I told him what his income was and that he looked like a homeless guy, even though he says that about himself.
I feel the love of Christ having Patrick call in to say you look like a homeless person, and that Biden's an actual pagan papist, but Trump is a real Christian, or we'll take him at his word because he says so. Nobody takes you seriously, Patrick. Here's the thing. By the way, callers, we've still got more callers on the line, theists and atheists right now, but there are at least a couple of lines open. If you are serious, we would love to actually talk to you. Oh, we get it. We're going to get trolls. We're going to get Matthew calling over and over again. Matthew's not a troll. Matthew's just incredibly confused, it seems. Or maybe he's a troll, but he just seems incredibly confused. And then we're going to get trolls
I'm not convinced he's a troll. I've talked with him so much, so I will.
If he's a troll, he's way more time on hands than any troll I've ever met. And they always seem to have more time than everybody else. But
yeah, I'd be surprised. I'll put it that way.
Dennis in Missouri, pronouns are he, him. Thank you for calling. You had a question, I guess, about Project 2025.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt. I hope you're well. I actually would have given a teasing compliment and nickname as Rasputin, not homeless person. So you could have the beard, the hair, and awesome stature. So
there you go.
Thanks, JMike. But actually, it was about something you said either on the last Hang Up or the past Sunday show, in which you said that Project 2025 does not call for a ban on abortion. And I think as in as many words, because part of what makes the document so insidious is it doesn't ever straight say anything, but it infers it so darn much and suggests policies that I think it does actually pretty much call for a ban on abortion, or an effective ban.
Yeah, you're in with a bunch of other people. I care about what it actually says. And if we run around saying Project 2025 calls for a national ban on abortion, when that's not what it says, and it says it includes the word choice when it's talking about it, and the people who, I think it's true that most of the people who are supporting Project 2025 would prefer a national ban on abortion, but the project doesn't call for that. So if it doesn't actually say that, wouldn't it be better to say, much in the way that the right wanted to do, trap laws to prevent it without actually preventing it, Project 2025 is doing a lot of the things that effectively make it impossible, if not illegal in many circumstances, despite the fact that it doesn't actually call for a national ban on abortion.
I suppose when we get down to like kind of what is going to happen in a kind of casual conversation as people speak, I guess trying to not lose the thread or just kind of feel as if you're being too wordy or dodgy. That's why I think it might be a fair assessment to say that it's actually trying to call for at least, I suppose if you water down the language too much, it almost sounds like you're softening it to try and obscure what your opinion of it would kind of be. I don't know if I'm out of line in saying that, but it does feel almost weaselly when it does seem like that it's just trying to call for such an extreme restriction as to effectively make it not accessible. What restriction? What does Project 2025 specifically say about abortion? It defines that that abortion is not health care, and that the Secretary for Health and Human Services should have a robust agenda to protect all life starting from day one, and that all life has inherent dignity. And it also, in that same one, sneaks in that there shouldn't be death with dignity also. So defining life as starting at conception, having inherent value at day one, and that abortion is not health care. I think those three things combined is just a roundabout way of saying we want to do everything we can to stop an abortion, even if it would just be in the best interest of the mother. Does it call for a national ban on abortion? No, and I suppose you're right about that. It just feels like it doesn't. Okay, yeah, and you agree. Yeah. So why not say? You're right. Why not say, instead of saying it calls for a national ban on abortion, why not even say it effectively wants to outlaw abortion? Why not say that instead of the lie? You know what? I suppose you're probably right there. I don't actually really feel it's a lie to call the ban. I think it's sloppy usage. I don't think it's a deliberate mistruth. Lie. If it does not call for a ban, it would be a lie to say it calls for a ban, wouldn't it? If it does not call for a national ban, and it doesn't say
that there's not a call for a national ban, then if you say it calls for a national ban, you are lying, right?
I think if you deliberately misrepresent it, because I think you can, in a fair interpretation, think that it is a ban, but I think I actually do.
If it does not call for a national ban, and you know it doesn't call for a national ban, and you say it calls for a national ban, how is that not a lie?
Actually, I agree. In my circumstance, it would be lies for me to call it that. I said some people could interpret it and not be lying, but just not being precise with their words or being more common with vernacular loose.
I'm aware. I released an entire fucking video today about this exact thing, about hyperbole, and how we're shooting ourselves in the foot over this because we are misrepresenting the truth. And what it does is it gets somebody to say, look at those people with the woke mind virus or the Trump derangement syndrome or whatever it is that's causing them. They can't even see what it actually says. And they get to dismiss you and they get to dismiss the issue. I want to be able to actually address the issue. And you can only do that if you take the high ground and actually say what it actually says and then talk about what the potential effects are. Because it may be the case that they want to outlaw abortion. I think many of them do. Some of them have said so. It may be the case that the people behind Project 2025 are actively going to work for a national ban. We know that members of the Heritage Foundation that put this together are in favor of that. And that was part of the goal. I agree with what the likely consequence of all this is. I'm only talking strategically when we present a case. You have to be careful with what you say, because if what you say isn't true and they can show that you know it, then you're a liar. And if what you say isn't true and it's hyperbole, they can show you are prone to exaggeration, and then your issue gets dismissed right alongside you.
Well, I think you've set me straight. I appreciate that.
I'm just wondering. That's fine, Dennis. I'm just wondering because I keep hearing this over and over again. I'm like, what exactly would be wrong with saying Project 2025 is put together by people who have openly said they want to have some of them want to have a national ban on abortion. Project 2025 doesn't specifically call for a national ban on abortion, but it calls for this, and this, which may effectively lead to that. And they might not be saying all that they want to do, but we don't get to just decide, you know what? I suspect they have this as their secret plan. We don't need to worry about the Project 2025 secret plan. The actual plan they published at 920 pages is more than enough. What's actually in there?
In some ways, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
In some ways, I think that's actually what makes it possible for them to hide or smuggle things. So they put it right out in broad daylight, buried beneath a mountain of extra words. It's a difficult document to read from what I've been able to get through so far. No, I think only the expediency of time when a message to be sent out. But I agree, perhaps the harm of trying to be expedient or use word economy, it does probably undercut the message. So that would be my only rebut to that. Sometimes it's too long. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what?
And it's not a good rebut. I'm not even going to pretend like it is. That's about it. So I don't have a good answer to that. You're correct.
Yeah. My problem is that I think it's the desire for bumper sticker, tweet-sized arguments that make people think it's too long to say the actual truth. And it's just easier to go with the shorthand.
Agreed. I actually agree with that, more so on a matter of strategic. How long can you hold someone's attention and whether or not you could get a message through that way? It was the only way I would. And that's, again, I agree. It's not a very strong rebuttal. It's just. Yep.
And by the way, I'm okay with, some people got confused when I post this. If you want to say that, hey, I'm pretty sure that the people behind Project 2025 want to ban abortion, I agree. I think you should be able to say that. And I think you're correct. There's a difference between saying, I'm convinced this is what they want, and this is what they said they want.
That's what they said. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to change my verbiage then and fall in line with that, because that does sound more reasonable, and that way you could still get the best of both worlds, because I think it is correct to say that's what they want, and you don't have to necessarily say that it's spelled out in the document.
The other thing, and I included this in the
video.
Well,
this wasn't contentious at all.
No. The other thing, and I included this in the video that I posted today, is, hey, instead of saying you want to ban abortion, you want to hurt women, you want to make women slaves to their biology, you want there to be consequences for sex, instead of saying that's what they want, instead say the policies you're trying to implement have the effect of punishing women for having sex, adding consequences to sex, making women slaves to their biology. If that's the consequence of what you're implementing, why are you still implementing it? If that's not your goal, why are you doing something that causes harm? And why don't you care about the harm that you're actually advocating? And now you put them on their heels, because instead of saying, here's what you want to do, only to be wrong, you can say, I don't know what's in your heart. I don't know what your goal is, but here's the real consequences of what you're advocating. Why are you okay with that? And now they're on defense right out of there. And you didn't have to pretend to be a mind reader. Not that you would. That was the point in the video.
No, I'm following. You said something that raised my head. You said the Trump derangement syndrome, and that's something I unfortunately ran into several times, and it's just used as an automatic dismissal, so you never get to have a conversation. They just, outright, this is a crazy person, because they don't think Trump is God. I'm sorry, that's probably not, I'm putting words in their mouth again, sorry, but, well, you convinced me, and actually my wife wanted to thank you for talking about that interview that Trump did with the black journalists. Because she immediately she popped in her headphones when I said I was going to call in, and she has been cackling at how ridiculous that man sounds in that interview.
I swear, this is as close to hyperbole as I'm going to get. If we were in a functional reality, what he did on that stage is the rough equivalent of saying, I don't know why I'm here. I don't give a shit about your vote. That's kind of the way some of his answers felt of, yep, I'm here because they made me come sit here, but I don't have to be nice to you. I don't have to justify anything. When really, when you show up for something like that and you're running for president, you would think that they would be like, hey, let me give you guys a reason to vote for me. And when they asked the question right off the bat of, hey, why should we trust you? He's like, well, that's very rude. I don't think I've ever had a question asked in such a rude way. It was wild.
Yeah, her face was what a pure shock.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing to look forward to such a train wreck that's probably happening, but it's just the way I imagine it. It's probably going to match. It'll probably supersede what I imagine.
Well, thanks.
I worry more about the train wreck. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys, for having me, and thank you for doing the show. It's always a great listen.
My pleasure. Also, the one thing that he raised was this notion of Project 2025 talking about abortion isn't healthcare. That's important, because that notion of abortion being healthcare is fundamental to how we were making changes to the system. Mm-hmm. And it's also, as soon as you denied healthcare, now all of a sudden it can be removed from insurance stuff and things like that.
Yeah.
It opens the door to a lot of new ways to potentially ban stuff, which is wild.
Mm-hmm. Cemented too for a long time.
All right. Here's another theistic caller calling in for us. Elijah, pronouns are he, and from North Carolina.
Hey,
wants to ask about evidence for God.
Oh yeah. Hey Matt, I just wanted to say before we start talking that you have a beautiful, lustrously Germanic beard. I think that Christian apologists don't point that out enough. Yeah, but I kind of wanted to go on a point that you talked about with Mike Winger in that debate you had a while back.
I don't remember.
I thought it was okay. I think I remember him asking you a question about what would convince you, and you said that according to your current framework, at least, there isn't anything in particular that you would find that you could even think of that would convince you. So I'm wondering, how do you wrestle with that and the falsifiability of your view? Do you believe your view is falsifiable? And if not, do you think that's an epistemic problem?
My view is
how do you tackle that?
My view is falsifiable because my view is I'm not convinced that a God exists, and I'm not convinced that it's justifiable to believe that a God exists. And so the way to falsify that is to provide a justification for it, which if a God exists, a God could absolutely do it. So and other people would be able to potentially do it too. My answer to what would change my mind about the existence of God is, I don't know. But if there is a God, that God should absolutely know what would change my mind and should be capable of providing that evidence, but he hasn't. So either he doesn't exist or he doesn't want me to know he exists yet. Either way, it's not my problem. It would be bizarre of me to pretend that I have an understanding of reality that is sufficient to tell the difference between an actual God existing and something that is technologically and comprehensibly beyond my understanding.
Okay. So I guess what would you find to be the difference? Like, why is that difference necessary to you? I guess it matters on the back end, but from a position of like reasonable observation from empiricism, like, we don't act like solipsists. I think that's the term. Yeah, where you think that everything's not real, right?
I didn't mention anything about solipsism, and solipsism isn't relevant to this. My thing
is that not how you approach?
So Arthur C. Clarke's statement that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I don't know how to solve that, and I think that a God should be able to. I think a God should be able to solve that, but I don't. And so it's not my fault if a God hasn't found a way around that problem. All I'm saying is, let's say there was massive writing in the sky and fire that said, I am the Lord thy God, bow down before me. And it was written in a language, where anybody could understand it and all that stuff. That would all be impressive. But how do you determine that that's the result of a God versus the result of a technology you don't understand from someone who's trying to deceive you?
Right. Okay, I see where you're coming from. So if that's the case, would you say that there are there any events that could occur that you would say there's no way technology could have done that?
No, because I don't know the limits of technology.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things that I could propose that seem like they're beyond technology. Like if somebody showed up and put me in a time machine and let me watch history rewind right back to the Planck time, that's a pretty impressive technology. And I think you could make use of that to get more information about what actually happened. But I don't know that technology would prove that it's a God.
Yeah, I don't think that technology is logically possible. But I guess
there's a difference between what's logically possible just is about whether or not it contradicts itself or the foundations of logic.
Right. That's like grandfather paradox. I think that applies.
It's a pretty low bar to meet too. Like if you're just talking about logical possibility.
Yeah. I guess so. If you're applying like technological, so a lot of things are technologically possible. But if there is no technology, right? So we're like shoving it to like a Kalam cosmological argument idea, where there is no material, which let's say the limits of material technology are infinite. Like we truly cannot make that distinction with any absolute certainty in our position. But if material technology just doesn't exist in a certain system, then wouldn't it be rational to propose something else? And that's only like a prime mover. But in that case, would you apply a different methodology?
I'm not sure I understand what you even said.
Okay, I'll rephrase. It's the objection is, well, we don't know if it's divine supernatural or if it's technology. Well, in the case of the creation of the universe, it can't be material technology by default. That's out of the question.
Why?
Because there's no material.
No. How did you rule out the universe being the product of a multiverse with a different space-time, or that the material already existed and that what we're talking about for the origin of the universe is the material, the implementation of time and change within it? Like, I don't know how to say what is or isn't possible at a medicine. Because to me, when you say, oh, well, that's not technically possible. Well, that's just like me saying, it's absurd to say there's a God that exists outside of space and time, because I don't know what it means to exist outside of space and time. Not even convinced that's possible. But we have just our local presentation of time, and we can't explore prior to the Planck time, even mathematically, it breaks down. So I don't know how you can determine what is or isn't possible there, or why.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to be difficult, Elijah, but I don't know why that's relevant. All I'm saying is,
Right.
getting back to the question is, I don't know what evidence could be presented for God, but
Okay.
I would agree that if a God exists, given the normative usage of God, that God, if it's possible to demonstrate reliably that God exists, I would argue that God is the best individual to know and understand that and be capable of doing it, and it doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, I that seems like two separate arguments. I guess, do you think that it's inconsistent with his nature that he doesn't show it, or just that? Because, like, I would agree with that fact, but I'm not sure, like, quite how it applies to the situation.
He's just
he could convince you.
It sounds like he's just saying that, look, it has the power, the ability to convince me that the proposition God exists is true. People will say stuff like, well, you walked past the sign, like God did try to show you, but God would have known ahead of time that would have been a failed attempt to get Matt to believe in him, right? He would have known that prior to placing it there. So when Matt walks by it, it's not Matt's fault that he walks by and doesn't recognize this is a sign from God. God knew ahead of time and precisely what it would take to convince him, and decided to put a sign that Matt would just walk past and not even acknowledge. So what it seems like is that... Sorry? It just seems like the ball now is on the court of, well, given that, God would know ahead of time, if that sign would convince Matt, it has the ability to produce that, then it's kind of left on that side, right? It's not like there's anything
the fact that it hasn't happened.
Okay, interesting.
Maybe, so Elijah, let's imagine, because I don't know which God, when you're like, oh, what's the explanation for this? Is it just not in God's nature? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't exist. I mean, that's at least one of the things to consider.
Right.
But
yeah.
Let's imagine that there is a God, and that God can present sufficient justification to warrant my belief, and that God wants me to believe. Then the question is, why don't I believe? And there's a couple different options. One is you can reject the notion of non-resistant non-belief. You can say, I'm somehow resisting. I reject that assertion. I think if there is a God who can prove to me that exists and wants to prove to me exists, I'd already believe that God exists. I don't know how. Am I more powerful than God that I can refuse? So the people who are looking at me saying, well, God already demonstrated it, they're making a claim about my internal state, and they're asserting either that I do believe when I know I don't, or that I'm being irrational and have somehow managed to, I hate using the word
God on his own.
Thwart God's attempts to demonstrate the truth to me. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. I guess, I don't necessarily have a difficulty with that. So that makes sense from the second part of it. And then the first part of it, on like the technological possibility, I think I might actually agree with you, oddly enough, as you've walked me through this. In some, I want to make sure I'm not mischaracterizing you.
Yeah, I don't think you just became an atheist instantly. I'm just glad we're making progress.
Right.
Be very skeptical of someone.
You're saying that it's impossible to know with certainty that it's not technology. That's the Arthur C. Clarke idea. It could just be technology and we're all being duped. And I think I would agree with that. But in that case, wouldn't it be more... Wouldn't you have to make a reasonable judgment at that point?
Elijah,
you'd have to make a reasonable judgment.
Yeah. But in virtue of what can you make the reasonable judgment? Right? Like, in virtue of what am I going to say it's technologically advanced, or like I don't know some law of nature, right? All of this stuff, like if there's something there that you don't know, like how are you going to assess in virtue of what it's more likely to be a God in that instance?
Yeah,
right? Like you're going to have to
to tee off of what Mike's saying. The conclusion we want to reach is it more probable that X is caused by the fact that a God exists, or not. And so since all of the available, or, you know, let's say there's a proposed thing, which by the way, hasn't happened and never happens, the sort of writing in the sky and all this, but let's say it did happen and we're trying to figure out if it's more likely to be technology or a god. I would say by default, technology must be the more likely, more probable answer, because we already know that technology exists. We don't necessarily know the limits of that, but that technology doesn't violate the laws of the universe, whereas a supernatural being is in conflict with the known natural laws and doesn't have sufficient evidence to support it. So already just in the, you know, it's like saying, I don't say miracles aren't possible, because that would be closing your mind. I'm happy to believe a miracle occurred if there's sufficient evidence for it. But by definition, a miracle is the least probable explanation for the state of affairs. Otherwise, we wouldn't view them as special, as miraculous.
Yeah, I guess I would accept that. Like in a system, we put miracle at the lowest when there are other possible plausible explanations. But like in the case of resurrection or the creation of the world, I would start saying that the supernatural is a plausible explanation in the absence of other plausible explanations. And the way I would measure that is that we have a sort of science of the gaps here, where it's like,
you're not in the
there's
of other
technology.
explanation.
I love the fact that I was getting ready to ask how you could make that conclusion, and then you literally presented a different version of a named fallacy. So what you're saying is, if we don't have a natural explanation, all of a sudden the supernatural is considered plausible by you. And I think I'll let Mike speak for himself. The fact that I don't have a natural explanation does not lend any credence at all to any supernatural explanation, because if you look at the history of the times where we didn't have a natural explanation at the time and proposed a supernatural explanation, every time in the history of the world where we've found out what the correct explanation is, it has never turned out to be supernatural. It has always turned out to be natural once we got to an understanding of it. Why would we all of a sudden think that that trend is going to end and make the supernatural plausible? It's an arrogance that, hey, we humans, we've been studying this for a long time. If we don't know by now, doggone it, it's reasonable to think it's supernatural. I reject that out of hand.
Especially when you have like ghost shows on season 45 of never finding a ghost, and, you know, on the other side of that. So,
ooh, I recorded, I pushed record and I got some white noise and I heard some, and now I'm going to sit here and try and interpret it and then extrapolate that. It's something Tracy Harris said, and I'll turn it right back to you here in just a second, Elijah. Something Tracy Harris said years ago is that you hear all this talk about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and we have, you know, a couple of fraudulent video clips and other things, but let's assume that they're out there. The Bigfoot enthusiasts are basically sitting around and they're discussing the breeding habits of Bigfoot and how long they live and what their family thing is like, and yet they have nothing to even show that it exists. And that is directly comparable to what's going on with religions, because people begin with, hey, the natural world hasn't explained this, and I don't know if it ever could, so I'm going to go with the supernatural explanation. And then they expand that right down to, you know, what's God like, and does he care who you're sleeping with, and all these other things. And they build this entire world building, you know, theistic model from it, just based on, here's some stories that people told when they couldn't think of a better answer.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the way I would approach it is that I'm not sure I'm doing a fallacy. Maybe this will help. I would say it's not A. If not A, then B. Not A, therefore B. I think that's modus ponens. But
no,
what I'm saying here is it's not A.
No.
Deductively?
No. You have to, so it's A or not A or B, because then you have to do A or B or C or D or E or F or G or H or I, etc. So you just start with A or not A. And so, is the explanation for this phenomenon natural or not? And if the answer is we don't know, then we don't get to claim either.
well, is it more reason? I would attack it like, is it more reasonable to believe that it's natural or unnatural? And so if you have like a particular, it's hard to talk in the abstract, but if you talk about like a particular event, like the resurrection and the creation of the world, I would say
I would
more
push,
reasonable.
I'd push back.
Yeah.
No, I'm just like I'd push back though, because like if I'm not really convinced of this pursuit of like metaphysics really, and like what metaphysicians and philosophers do. I think they're just like kind of telling stories. But if I had to like play this game where I had to go with a naturalistic view versus like some non-naturalistic view, like I'm skeptical that we can really have a good basis of reason in I guess the case that Matt specifically gives, but because I'm not presented with like the sky turning like that, that's a question for if that happens. But if we do talk about these kind of events where we thought it was something supernatural, it ends up being natural, or we can't explain, or maybe you take consciousness or something. Every single time when we compare those views, naturalism to me is going to have less commitments, and it's going to have this nice trade-off of providing an explanation. I don't think like a theist can't also give a story or some explanatory account, but there's going to be so much stuff that we haven't even heard about, like the incarnation, divinity, a spiritual realm, jinns and genies, maybe, right? It's not even just like the simple, It's not like you just have God in the natural world. You have like all of this extra stuff that's supposed to do some explanatory heavy lifting. And upon my analysis, when I talk to theists, it almost seems like that stuff is just idle wheels in your explanatory account. So if we were like forced to do the whole kind of with limited access, what best metaphysical picture we could take, I think just off of theoretical virtues alone, you're going to look at naturalism. There's more reason for me to not be committed by something that serves as an idle wheel in my explanatory power. Otherwise, I'll just commit myself to 1,000 gods, right? I just might as well shave off as many as I
see where you're coming from
until I get to something that coheres with reality. It fits the data that every time we've had some supernatural explanation, it turns out to be natural. Well, my naturalism is accounting for that, and it's expected on the data, at least, that might happen again. It's going to be really hard for me to make this supernatural commitment.
Let me try this real quick.
Yeah.
All three of us, I'm assuming, have heard of the strong nuclear force, right?
Yeah.
Heard of it.
Cool. Do any of us know what it is, and can any of us rule out that it's supernatural? I mean, we're looking at what one of the aspects of atomic structure, and we're saying there must be some force holding it together. We're going to call it the strong nuclear force. We don't necessarily know what it is, where it comes from. If we don't know, does it become reasonable to say, ooh, it's God holding atoms together? At what point does that ever become reasonable, just because we don't know what it is?
Right. I agree with you there. That's why the way I frame my argument is that it's more reasonable. I think Michael, is that his name? He's applying Occam's razor, and he's saying it's much simpler to use naturalism, and maybe we'll just invoke a theoretical solution that might exist in the future that we have yet to discover. I think it's more reasonable.
We're just saying,
in this period.
We're just saying, I don't know. What's wrong with saying I don't know?
Yeah, I'm saying I don't know. I was just adding that
just take you out of the conversation,
game. Well, I was just saying if we had to play this game, which this is to me just like, I don't buy into this project that metaphysicians think that they're making progress here. But if I had to buy into this game and assess like this non-natural metaphysics over naturalism, it's just clear to me that I've never needed that commitment, that postulate to explain the world around me. And if I had that extra postulate just for the sake of it, and I looked around the world, it doesn't seem like I couldn't explain the data with naturalism. It just seems like an extra commitment that's unnecessary. So it kind of, if we're going to play that game, it's supposed to throw the ball into the theist court and say, look, you have extra commitments like God and this kind of stuff to explain this stuff that we agree about. But like, you're going to have to show why I need to buy into that account, because you don't disagree with me that electrons exist. You don't disagree with me with the data. You have extra stuff that I don't have. And I have to be convinced why I should add that if I'm going to play that game. That's me trying to be as humble as I can.
I'm fine with taking that ball. Yeah.
Elijah,
I
real
think
quick.
That's completely fair.
Elijah, real quick, my apologies. We're going to go a little bit shorter today, so we're going to wrap calls up, but I want to give you a chance to get the last word in now, and then you can call us back another time.
Oh, definitely. I mean, this has been so enjoyable. You guys are great. Yeah, I think so. The thing I see Christians try to shift burden of proof, and I don't like it. And I see atheists do the same thing. I think often it leads to conversation busting, and I don't think we get to the point we want to be. So I'm completely fine with taking the burden of proof. And I make two statements. I say that naturalism can explain it, ergo God and Christianity, in a few specific things. And I'm completely fine with accepting that you think that naturalism is a more simple, beautiful, and logical argument or explanation. I just think the inverse, and I have reasons for it.
I'm just saying it does better on the trade-off on commitments and the explanation you get out of the commitments. That's all I'm saying.
I would take the inverse, the exact inverse of that. So we agree with the same presumption.
I'd love to have, we don't have time for it today, but I'd love for you to call in another time to present why you're doing the opposite, why you all of a sudden take the supernatural, which has never been confirmed. I can't even imagine a circumstance under which I would find the supernatural to be so much more plausible than how do you determine it's more plausible than natural options you don't know anything about? It's very much there's this line from Blackadder where Lord Percy is talking about the eyes of the Spanish Infanta being bluer than the great stone of Galveston. And it turns out he's never seen either of them. So he's saying that something he's never seen is slightly less blue than something else he's never seen. And that's what I hear in my head when somebody suggests that a supernatural explanation that they have no way to investigate is more plausible than a natural explanation they don't know about.
Okay, let's definitely talk about that sometime. But cool. Thanks for having me on. It's been great.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Elijah. Call back another time.
Yeah.
We are almost out of time if we're gonna hit our deadline here, but there's a couple calls left I want to try to get to as briefly as possible. Willie is calling from Hong Kong with a question for us. Pronouns are he, him. Willie, you're on with Mike and Matt.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Mike. How you doing?
We're all right.
Good. Yep. Basically, just a short thing is, my mom and my family are in a faith healing ministry, and I've went to their YouTube. It's full of crap. Basically, they've done the whole thing. My question is, how do I approach this with especially my mother, because I'm not in, because my mother is in the Philippines. I'm in Hong Kong, born and raised in Hong Kong, so I don't really get to see her as much. So there's this gap where I can't just like talk to her every day. And as you know, Philippines is a very religious country.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to approach this with my mother, especially. I'm saying, hey, because she told me like she left the church to join this other church, and I was confused because I know my mom is very religious, and so I checked them out, went to their Facebook, and it's really sad to see because they do the whole thing where they're in wheelchairs. You're blessed, you're healed. There's one woman who had a sign that says, "I have cancer." The minister, who calls himself the prophet, says, "You're healed, you don't have to do chemo." And that just made me so angry. So I'd rather have my mom go to a regular church where they don't preach about sickness, because I'm worried that my mom would get sick someday and she say, "You know what, it's okay. I'm just gonna go to this prophet and hopefully get healed by them." And I don't know how to approach that. Yeah.
What is your primary goal? And so are you just worried about potential future harm to your mom, or is this faith healing ministry? Okay.
Potential, because the ministry, they're going to be everywhere. You can't stop it.
So I don't know. Because I don't know your mom.
Gotcha.
I don't know what appeals to her. I don't know whether, it's better to be, "Look, Mom, this is bullshit and we can prove it," when you may not be able to. Or, hey, they told this person they were cured of cancer, but, then 6 months later they died of cancer. You'd need to, do research on that stuff. Unfortunately, I'm gonna give a quick assessment here and kind of hand it over to Mike and maybe bow out, which is, I'd love for my mom to stop listening to bullshit internet preachers and thinking that the earth is flat and having a bunch of really bad views. But I don't get to live somebody else's life for them, whether they're my mom or not. And so one of the things that I've had to do is just come to grips with the fact that we're not going to agree. And so the best thing you can do, in my view, and I could be wrong, is let your mom know that you have concerns, that you love her, that you don't want to see her taken advantage of, and you are genuinely worried about this, and that if she wants to talk about it, you're open to doing that. If she wants to investigate it with you, you're open to doing that. But that you're not going to badger her about it because you care more about your mom than you do this potential harm. That's the best I can think of.
I agree. I've never badgered her about her religion. She knows I'm an atheist, and she's never bothered me about it, which is, I'm very respectful
which
of her.
Which means you're the one that's breaking the truce.
True. Yeah. Yeah, then maybe maybe you're right. Maybe I'll talk to her. Tell her about how I feel about it.
And maybe there's a way you can, like, on a point that she already agrees with, like, I don't know, maybe she already knows that there's people in the church that don't have, maybe you could sell it in a way where they don't have the church's interest in their thought. They're kind of doing this for their own gain, right? They're kind of corrupt within that. She already accepts that there are people within the system that don't kind of have the same goals as everybody else in the church, or they're kind of separately motivated or whatever. If she already agrees that with that, then you could try to just phrase it in a way where, I'm worried this is another type of person that doesn't really have your best interest, that they don't really, not really teaching the right things. Like, do it in a way where you're meeting them and saying, look, there are people, whether you think this is true or not, that will take advantage of you. And I just want to potentially have those tools where you can, think about this for yourself. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but maybe some common ground on, hey, it's possible that people will influence you in the wrong ways, regardless of if they share the same beliefs.
Hey, any advice is good advice to me right now. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Well, I also recommend reaching out to Recovering from Religion and the Secular Therapy Project if you need more than what RFR is likely to be able to deal with volunteers. But and if you find a good solution, call back and let us know how it goes.
Will do. Thank you.
Sweet. Thanks, Willie. All right. Final call for today. And then we're going to go on to Super Chats. And our final caller is Al from Ohio, pronouns are he, they. So, Al, welcome. You are on with Matt and Mike.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Our pleasure.
Hey.
How you doing?
Surviving.
Surviving. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Well, what can we possibly help or screw up on your behalf?
So I've kind of within the last 6 months or so started regarding myself as an atheist. And I have some mental issues, specifically like panic disorders, maybe some PTSD. And like when I'm calm, like logically, like I can see, I'm more of an agnostic atheist. Like, is there a God? I don't know. Is there evidence for it? I've been watching The Line, and some other channels, like specifically, Matt, I've seen some of your videos. I've been watching a lot of Forrest Valkai stuff. a little bit of Paulogia. JMike, I'm sorry I haven't gotten to your videos, but they're on the list.
It's okay. I just find myself on these calls, so it's no worries.
Yeah. And like logically, when I'm calm and I'm more grounded on those kinds of days, I'm like, all right, God's probably not real. But on days where I'm less grounded and spiraling and just a wreck, I find myself backpedaling. If you hear me getting teary-eyed or crying, I'm just an emotional person, and I apologize for that.
You don't have to apologize, but I appreciate the heads up because I'm really bad. I already know I'm bad at when people start crying or getting emotional. I'm not the best person to deal with it, so I appreciate you letting me know ahead of time that I might suck here in just a second.
And I just, maybe today's just not one of my good days, but I feel like in this nebulous, like I don't know where I am mentally, or I don't know, spiritually is the right word.
Is this subsequent to like you leaving your spiritual or religious beliefs? You're saying that you didn't have these feelings prior, but you do now? I just want to make sure I'm understanding kind of your situation.
Well, I was raised in a Christian household, specifically Methodist, and I have a lot of religious trauma with my parents trying to force me to church and blah, blah, blah. And I never like really took on to Christianity. I don't think there's ever really a point where I even considered myself a Christian, but that but I always had this stigma around me, like my parents treated me different because of it.
I see.
Yeah.
So your life is like, is it significantly gone worse, or have you've always been dealing with this I'm trying to see where I can kind of insert see on the kind of from the religious side of it how this is affecting you.
Right. When I was younger, and especially when I'm 35 now, and I'm estranged from my family. But when I was stuck living with them, I tried to like fit what they want me to believe and such. Like I tried reading the Bible when I was far too young to understand what the heck I was reading. And they would find little things to yell at me about, like I'd be on the floor reading it, and they'd be like, "Why are you reading it on the floor? That's disrespectful to the Bible." Blah 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 blah. And they'd find other things, like I still do. I have this aversion to certain textures that I eat things, so I don't eat a lot of fruit. And my mom especially would be like, "Oh, you don't like fruit? That's God's candy. Like, how dare you not like it?" And it just kind of spiraled into kind of me thinking,
you've looked at yourself like there's something wrong. You've been reinforced to think there's something wrong with you in all these instances. Is that the idea?
Yeah. And this was reinforced by people at church, by other family members.
But you know that's not true now, right?
Yeah. Like the thoughts still come up, and I just, try to tell myself, or, brain, like, shut the fuck up. Let's focus on something else. It's not important.
I know somebody, the call screener mentioned they already recommended the Secular Therapy Project, right?
Yes, and also the recovering from religion.org.
Yeah, don't take this the wrong way, Al, but Or is it AI and I just did it wrong?
It is Al. It's short
Okay.
for Alphonse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So don't take this the wrong way, Al, but I have no expertise in this area. I'm happy to give my thoughts, but my primary recommendation is that you reach out to the Secular Therapy Project, because you said you were 35.
Yes.
How much interaction do you still have with your parents with respect to religion? Is it like daily, weekly, monthly?
None.
Sorry, what?
I went no contact with them about a decade ago.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
So now instead, it's not that they're the problem. It's that you find yourself reverting to old habits and, feeling, because it says here that you're reverting to old habits of prayer or beg for help when you're struggling. Is that the primary problem that you want to address?
Yeah.
You're fine. You are just like all the rest of us, that once you've been given a utility to deal with the situation, you're going to keep falling back to that utility until you get a better one. And you are struggling with mental health issues and religious trauma and some absolutely horrific psychological trauma done on behalf of religion by people close to you who were supposed to love you and supposed to not do that. Now, I'm not saying they didn't love you. I'm saying that for whatever reason, religions poison people's brains in many cases to where what they see and think of as love is not what I would find recognizable as love. So first of all, check out Secular Therapy Project. Second of all, cut yourself some slack, because, it's not just people in the throes of sex who are, atheists in the throes of sex are screaming, "Oh God." That doesn't mean that they actually believe it. And when you are desperate and flailing around and you're like, "Oh, I can't take it anymore. Please, God, please help me," like that, that doesn't mean that you believe there's something there. That's an expression of your frustration and your inability to deal with the situation in any other way. And so I definitely recommend reaching out to Secular Therapy Project so that someone can help you get the tools to do this better. So that, first of all, you're not doing anything wrong. You're not being dishonest. You didn't go back to theism or anything else. It is absolutely normal. The number of people who years, decades after giving up religious beliefs still have nightmares about hell, that's about what was done to you. And your reflexive goal, what your reflexive feelings of, "Oh, I'm going to do this when things get rough," that was also indoctrinated into you. This is not a failing of yours. All of this is the result of things that were done to you. And you can, over time, find your way free and find better tools to deal with those conflicts.
No, I know you can't see it, but I'm nodding.
Well, then go ye therefore unto the world, find someone through the Secular Therapy Project, or just find some friends who have been through similar things and talk to them about what they've found. But if you, in desperation and frustration, reach out in prayer, how can that possibly hurt? Well, it doesn't say anything about you or anything else. I'm not going to look down on you. I haven't said an actual prayer in decades at this point. But that doesn't mean that in moments of frustration, me saying, "God fucking damn it," may be roughly the same thing as you in frustration going, "Oh God, please." It may just be that this is the language and the tools that we have in moments of heightened frustration, and not that we think they're actually going to be effective. This is one. I'm gonna button this up with this real quick. I just released a video today about hyperbole. We're all prone to it. I included intentional hyperbole in the video just to see if anybody would call me out on it. Somebody immediately did, but they missed the irony that I was putting in there. But
I'm terrible with hyperbole.
It'll destroy the world. The issue that we all face is trying to find better ways of dealing with problems and dealing with the baggage that we already have. And so if you or I reach out in a reflexive way to what we were taught. If there was actually a God and you actually believed it, maybe you'd get an answer. But in the meantime, if you're not, then it seems obvious to both of us that what you're doing is the equivalent of going, I don't know what else to do. It's the reason we are terrible at dealing with death. So somebody dies. That's why religion's still like, oh, they've gone on to be with Jesus. They're up there, because then it gives you something where you've got nothing. You don't know what happens, and it's frustrating. You got to cut yourself some slack, and seek out some experts and some friends who've dealt with similar things, and they can help.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look into the secular therapy project, and also the recovering from religion. So, thanks for your support tonight, and I hope you guys
Thanks,
have a
Al.
good night. And thanks for all that you do. I know you help a lot of people, and that's awesome. So,
Thanks so
yeah,
much.
have a good one.
Everybody in
welcome.
chat sending their love to you, Al. Appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, I don't have any expertise. And somebody with good expertise could come in and be like, no, Matt's advice is wonderful, or Matt's advice is shit. And that's why I keep saying, go find somebody else to find out. But that's the best that I come up with. All right. We have super chats to get to and wrap up before we lose JMike here. So I think we've got it all covered. I'll start, but we can alternate. And that's
Let's do it.
£5 from Darren Lacey. Some stabbings took place at a kid's dance class in a UK town 2 days ago. The stabber was arrested. Then BSers, including a-hole Andrew Tate, called the attacker an illegal. Not true. Hundreds of right-wing fools swamp into riot, causing the town further grief. Yeah, I hadn't heard this one. Did you hear this news story?
No, I did not.
So wild. I don't have anything to add, Darren, other than thanks for letting us know. I will try to look it up. There's about 5 million things that are on my plate and broken right now, but
I got 10 is it euros from Ectril Pogue? I'm sorry. I'm just gonna be really bad tonight at this. Never read the Bible. Never been to church. Should I? I think you should read the Bible if you care about. I mean, it depends, I guess, on your motives there. I mean, I don't know what Matt's take is. Like, I find New Testament scholarship fun, but I didn't come from a Christian background at all, so I kind of thrusted myself into it. I find it fascinating. It's, but I don't find the Bible itself, reading it, that interesting. Just kind of everything involved with scholarship, how it was put together, and diving in there is really interesting to me.
Yeah, my thing is do it if you want to. I don't think it's an important book, and it's informed world religions, and it has had an impact on government, and it's good to know what you might be up against. But if you have never had any real interest in it, it's okay. You can go and live your life without ever addressing it at all. I study. I do Bible studies still, but I do them in the sense of, somebody says, what does Matthew 25:40 mean? And it says, then the king will answer, the truth is anything you did for any of my people here, you also did for me. And I like looking at, I'm on occasion, I will pick a random verse and go look at what, different Bible scholars have said about it, because sometimes I'll find interesting conflicts where 3 different Bible scholars have a slightly different take on something. And that's where I can find some interest in the conversation. Just going back and reading, Genesis again, I've read it 3, 4, 5 times. It's not going to get anything out of it.
$19 from Greg Markowski. Finally got to catch the show live. Been busy with the band these last few weeks, and I get to see JMike. What bonus? Nice. Yeah, thank you. I wish I could play in a band again. I miss those days. Very
I wish I could still play.
very far in between. Yeah. Oh, by the way, because you mentioned going to play pinball, I forgot to tell you, I will actually be in your area the 23rd to the 25th. So like 2 weeks, three weeks, I'll be flying into Austin. So
23rd to 25th. Hang on, let me check my calendar, make sure I'm here. Of August?
Yeah, me and Forrest will be there.
Oh, yeah. I'll be here that weekend. Come by when you're not with the awful people.
I will come by with Forrest, and we'll play guitar like last time in video games.
Well, you can play guitar, and I can't play guitar anymore.
No, you were good.
No, my fingers don't barely work. Oops. There we go. $10 from Rogue Show 296. Y'all need to stop calling him JBP Jr. Give him a Kermit the Frog voice, then we'll talk. Yeah,
oh, you talking about the axiomatic substrates and archetypal narratives? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that came in. That came in while Jackie was on the phone there. But oh wow.
$10 from Monkey at Typewriter. If Jackie wants to call back, I think he should be required to speak in his best Kermit the Frog voice. Just if he learned something before he's old enough to. We'll do basically anything.
Yeah. See, this is the stuff I don't care about. Like, I don't care how old he is. I don't care what voice he is. It is just, I don't want to dismiss people for the wrong reason. I don't want to be, problematic. What Jackie was saying was a complete avoidance of sound epistemology and just an assertion that, oh, it's good enough if it helps you, become your actual self. As if he has any idea what actual self means, or any way to demonstrate it. If you don't have an epistemology to show, here's what my actual self is, how do you know you've actually actualized yourself? But another one, $20 from Rogue Show 296. I know this is played out joke. Matt is God the Father with his wrath smiting theist. JMike is God the Son because he looks kind of like Jesus. Arden is the Holy Spirit being the wonderful producer she is. You're all wonderful. Fair.
I like that. At least we all exist.
Yeah. This one's you.
10. I don't know what is that currency? CHF? I'm not even sure.
CHF? Is that?
I think it's Swedish francs, or however you say it.
Yeah.
All right. Learn new stuff every day. Navigating the hero's journey, one must confront the shadow within, the metaphysical substrate, balancing chaos and order in the hierarchy of values where God represents transcendent meaning. Is that like I'm curious, was that a direct quote, like part of that? Because I feel like it's part of a direct quote of what
it seems like
it said.
That's
Yeah, I apologize to the audience. Like, not like maybe I seem like I might take the bait because of the like philosophy word salad that was going on, but I just genuinely couldn't understand what he was saying. I just didn't. It just sounded like word salad to me.
Yeah, I think that's a direct quote from Joseph Campbell, but if not, it's certainly a paraphrasing of that sort of thing. But all right. We are running out of time, and I'm trying to get through the super chats in time. $10 from James West. Would you make a guest appearance on an ACA program if invited? Not until every member of the board that shit on me and locked me out of my emails and prevented me and continues to post clips of me in order to pay their employees. Not until every one of them is fucking gone and apologized.
All right, $10 from Storm Chaser Noah. Hey Matt, just wanted to apologize about the unsolicited medical advice last week. I was showing your guys Hides to some friends.
Hides.
Okay. Hides to some friends the other day. Gorgeous snacks.
Oh, yeah, no worries at all, Noah.
No, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, pieball. Yeah. No worries at all, Noah, and I thank you. It's why I don't go off about it as much as I used to, but man, it's frustrating being in a position where people are wanting to constantly give you medical advice. And I know I can usually spot the difference in intent. So you're fine, but thank you so much. $10 from LA Silver Surfers. Thank you for the brevity.
Thank you. $20 from
here's more
Rogue
money.
Show. Yeah, wow. Thank you, Rogue Show. $20 from Rogue Show 296. Patrick's not a troll. It's just that the inner machinations of his mind is an enigma.
That's probably fair. Thanks, Rogue Show. Wow, $50. Holy crap, you guys are so generous tonight. I appreciate it, especially because I'm going to be alone for a week. Although now I learned that Mike's going to be coming down to Austin, so I'm excited. Arden will be back by then. We're definitely going to Pinballs, man. And there's like 3 of them.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Oh, okay.
$50
That's
for the
fine.
gray-haired gamer. Matt, I couldn't agree with you more about the stance on hyperbole. We have too much to lose to get sloppy with our rhetoric. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Working on it.
$20 from Adam S. Christians would have to stop the ban on cloning first to find out about technology.
I don't follow.
I think that's the assuming like stem cell related. That's my best guess. I don't know.
I know where I think that was going, but anyway, either way, thanks, Adam. And I'm sorry I didn't follow enough to really dig in on it, but I get it. People are trying to be brief and still get supers and stuff in. $10 from the gray-haired gamer. Mike, I love your work. I'm interested in the ideas you were talking about. Evolution selecting for the heartbeat as much as the pump. You referenced some author. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, so that's I've been like bugging Forrest about this. Last time I went to Austin, I like totally bugged him about it. I was like, I have this issue in my head I need solved, and you know more about biology. But it's an argument from an atheist named Jerry Fodor that just has kind of an issue with not evolution, but natural selection. And so I like to bring this argument up with a lot of people to get that kind of their response out of it. I have my own response to the argument and why at this point I don't think it actually works. But you might have caught my conversation with somebody like Planet Peterson. I'll just put it this way. I'm not very fond of their dismissal of certain philosophical takes and arguments. So I wanted to present them with an argument to see how they responded. Not that I take the argument to its extreme or anything. But yeah, I think there are some good responses to it.
Sorry. I was just going to ask Mike.
It's currently 1.5 minutes to 8, Mike. We have 4 super chats left. Are you able to do those with me, or do you need to go?
We can do those 4.
Is that what you're going to ask, Arden?
Yes, thank you.
Sweet. Arden and I are on the same page. $20 from Rogue Show. Wow, Rogue Show, you're going off the deep end. I appreciate it. I feel for Willie. Yeah, me too. My grandmother might not be a faith healer, but she's an anti-vaxxer Trump supporter who listens to Tucker Carlson. It's rough having a parental figure you just want to deconstruct, but might never. Yeah, and I find it's not just like a parent or a generational thing. I'm incredibly frustrated. So Ken Anderson, the wrestler who's a friendly acquaintance of mine, we've done some podcasts. Mr. Kennedy,
we're just so cool that you know him, by the way, because I'm such a mark. So.
He posted something yesterday about how strange it is that 2 people could look at all the same evidence about the same person, and one person could be like, "This is the best person in the world," and the other one could be like, "This is the worst person in the world." And I was like, yeah, I'm frustrated with that as well. By the way, I basically told Ken, I was like, if you feel like hanging out on a Wednesday and venting about your frustrations, you're welcome to come on. We can, I can't book you for an actual, like in-ring gig, but we can definitely book you for this, and we can hang out and talk about it. But thanks so much, Rogue Show. I appreciate the support. And yes, the frustration is palpable from all of us.
$10 from ISJL. It may not be the worst thing about it may be the worst thing about religions is that it can teach people that it is okay to hurt others out of love. Then comes the look at what you made me do. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. $10 for Perch Dragon. Thanks so much. Looking forward to seeing Jim Barrows again. Me too. Can't wait. We miss him here among the humanists in Phoenix. I bet. He's a great friend, great asset. He's anytime we've needed, Jim's been there to help out and do stuff. So yeah,
I've tried to get
hoping
this bit started online where he's like always on yacht parties with like huge celebrities, and that's why he's like slides in every now and then. But I don't think
I'm
the
on a
audience is,
boat.
yeah, I don't think they're catching on to it. But I'm always just like, oh, you finally gonna take away from all your celebrity friends to come hang out with us? All right.
Hoping for another large event in 2025, maybe a similar event in 2019 or 2019. Yep, we're looking at it. I don't know that it's going to happen in 2025, but definitely in there. $20 from Adam S. Matt, is there any evidence proven that the Jesus dynasty was heterosexual? And why do Christians want people to believe it's heterosexual?
I'm not sure what that is.
I'm so sorry, Adam. I mean, I realize you just threw this out while I was probably saying I couldn't understand the first one. Is there any evidence proving that the Jesus dynasty was heterosexual? So the normative biblical take is supportive of heterosexuality and is at least opposed to some aspects of homosexuality, depending on how you want to read it and do the interpretation. There are claims that Jesus, when the Bible talks about the disciple whom Jesus loved, there are people who want to play that up as if Jesus was in homosexual relationships or romantic relationships with men. There's no way to address that because we don't even know how to address whether or not he existed. I mean, I think mythicists go too far in asserting a burden of proof that they can't necessarily meet. But the truth is that we can't even demonstrate that he existed. I have no problem with the concept that he did, but how would you know if Jesus was gay or straight? Oh, the very fact that anybody could even utter that question is as absurd to believers as it is to utter the question of how do you know that he existed?
Exactly.
Both of those are similarly absurd to them, but that tells you a lot because they're reaching a conclusion about both of those questions based on their assumptions and not based on the evidence.
Exactly. Yeah. It sucks because like it's like the mythicist thing or that it's so against, like they're going to take you not seriously at all and just kind of dismiss you, but it will ironically point out that their basis has the same thing they're dismissing you of, like potentially with just like lack of support. But it's like, oh, that's fine. I go with assumptions, and it just sucks that you can't really make that progress with them because I feel like it's a really good area to make progress.
Here we go. The final super chat for today. JMike, read it away for us.
$10 from Kahoto Kun. Hopefully I get that right. Sorry. JMike on the line. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
Right. Let's fucking go.
Yeah,
all
especially
right,
now I don't feel sick for the first day in a fucking while. So, it's been nice.
So glad you're doing better. As a reminder, Transatlantic Call-In Show tomorrow. Josie Caballero and Nominal Naomi. Great episode to potentially watch. Sunday's episode of the Sunday Show at 2 p.m. will be me and Aron Ra. Last week you got 2/3 of the Unholy Trinity. This week you're getting 2/3 of the Unholy Trinity that are different. Also on the Sunday Show After Dark, John Gleason is going to be doing it with Seth Andrews. So all three of us from the Unholy Trinity are going to be on Sunday shows on the line this weekend on Sunday. Monday, Skeptalk will be Aron Ra, John Gleason. Tuesdays, Chewed Gum is Alyssa and Erika. I'll be back next week with Jim Barrows. Yeah! And Margan will be producing that, which means there'll be one slight difference. I won't have the insider access to the super chats that I do normally. Huge thank you to the Apostle Paul for screening our calls today, to Arden for producing right before she has to pack and leave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be so lonely. If only you could be down here this week, Mike. We could just play pinball like every fucking day.
God.
That'd be awesome. And guitar. In the meantime, huge thank you to all of our mods and everybody who's active in chat. Thank you so much to everybody who called in today. You guys were actually awesome. I loved most of the conversations. It's often most difficult when we're in a position to try to give advice because it's not really our expertise. But genuinely, I am thrilled with every one of the theistic callers that called in to actually work on presenting something. Yes, Matthew's frustrations are difficult, but I was glad for Jackie to call in. For everybody else, please take care of yourself. Watch out for hyperbole. Don't fall into the trap of exaggerating unnecessarily. Don't fall into the trap of buying into conspiracy theories just because something smells rotten and because somebody is absolutely a liar. Don't make claims that go beyond what you're able to demonstrate. And instead of claiming what somebody's motivations are, as if you can read their minds, instead talk about the actual effects of what they have to say. Because we're here, and if somebody has an evidence-based demonstration of the existence of God or something supernatural, I know Mike and I want to know, as do all of the other hosts on the line, and we will be convinced, all of us, the second there's an evidence-based case made that is sufficient to warrant belief. But if you're going to come in with esoteric claims and your private little confusion or what you think was privately revealed to you or some esoteric thing or some it's good enough argument, that's not going to do it. And what's worse is we're going to wonder why that does it for you. Why is it the most important question that could possibly exist? Do you have good reason to believe that there is a God that has a plan and a goal for you and cares about you and cares about what you do and has something in the future for you? Do you have any good reason to believe that? Why? And that most important question about what could possibly determine your afterlife, do you use a different standard of evidence than you do for every other claim? Like, do I have $1,000 in my wallet? Are these glasses actually prescription or are they just lenses? Why is it you have a different standard of evidence for all that? In the meantime, thanks everybody for tuning in. This has been The Hang Up right here on the line. Huge thank you to JMike for making time to come in and join us. Please, everybody, take care of yourself. You can go to patreon.com/calltheline, and you can also go to linemerch.com to buy things from this program. You can click like, subscribe, but we end up getting demonetized a lot. So look into those other ways of supporting the channel here. In any case, your participation in the chat is often enough. Tell people about the show. We'll be here.
And thank you to the